suspicious of strangers. It was never my intention, but I should have known better than to fall in love. Oh, I've learned my lesson, so I'll serve my sentence, but is that enough? Oh, is that enough? Hasn't quite stopped me from dreaming. It didn't get far, but I'm still hanging on to the feeling. For a moment I was special, but I should have known better than to fall in love. I've still got questions, but I've learned my lesson. Love, is that enough? Oh, is that I said, is that enough?
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Kyle Corvus Crow, joined by the one and only Jeff Zeta Schnurr, as we've got a special, exciting rundown tonight. It is going to be Johns Hopkins University coming up against the Universite de Montreal.
Yeah, and these two teams have been something that we've been watching for quite some time, right? After all, Johns Hopkins has been quite impressive. They went through the Winter Invitational, were undefeated all the way up until they hit that point, and they have not dropped a single game. 0 games dropped, except for one. They lost in the round of 128. One game over a total of, I believe, 30 plus played, including Columbia College, University of Washington. I mean, there's so many like big names, great teams that they've taken down, and just never really bothered to stop at any point. And Universite de Montreal, we've seen Montreal before, but they did indeed lose. The thing is, they only lost to the UCF team that was actually in the Winter Invitational Finals, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So only dropping 2 games there and 1 game in their round of 16 against the KSU Kim Possibles. Great name for them, but not a great series. They did indeed get dropped down. And in the round of 4, the semifinals, Montreal have what it takes to take down JHU. We're going to have to find that out because, after all, it doesn't matter what the stats say. It matters what happens on the Rift.
Absolutely excited to see what these guys are going to come out with as we are ready to get into draft for game number 1 here. JHU, you know them, you love them, the Blue Jays. Well, they're on the blue side to start things off. Just to give you the reminder, 25th Soul, top lane, Nightstone in the jungle, King James in the mid lane, 4 and Potential rocking it down in the bottom side of the map. And over for UDEM, it's Mysterio in the top, Douchey in the jungle, Enigma in that mid lane, Big Magic Stick, and Alcus rounding down the bottom half of the map. And already, look at that, we're seeing some AD focus from Johns Hopkins. They don't want Big Magic Stick to pop off a little too hard. We saw him on Lucian, I believe, last series. Really took that to well effect and had a great game with it. I think the Vayne was next after, so I would not be surprised to see Lucian either first picked or banned away here. After that, I don't know if they're going to apply more pressure on him or not.
So the thing is, if they continue to apply pressure on the AD role, there's been a lot of expansion in what can be played AD, right? The Jinx has been a perennial favorite of a lot of teams who lack win conditions, just because the Jinx is, at a certain point, taking over the game. With the Runans, with the Rockets, she does incredible amounts of damage to an entire team, so to have her waiting in the wings, so to speak, is always going to be a threat. Realistically, though, the first picks are going to be focused around this jungle, and that's the reason the Urgot gets banned out. Urgot has been rising in jungle popularity quite fast, and by quite fast, I mean incredibly fast. That has been a very strong pick in solo queue in terms of just being able to get control, the ganks, the damage, all relatively insane. So with it off the table, Johns Hopkins probably going to select the support first pick. No, they're going to go with the Sivir, in fact. That's not what I would expect, because usually you pick Sivir when you don't have a counter on the table. And there are plenty of counters to the Sivir, right? You can opt into something along the lines of the Draven. You can go for, extremely AD heavy, extremely early game focused AD carries that just don't throw spells. And there are a few of them left on the table. The Caitlyn was taken off. That's probably the perennial favorite, I would say, at just poking her out. But Galio Jarvan is a heck of a combo to pick up, and because they've already seen the AD, they don't need to pick their AD first rotation. They can pick it the second one, still in first phase, and that still allows the side of still allows the side of Montreal
yep.
to have time to actually, see what's coming out in the jungle. If you're picking Draven, you really don't want him to have to deal with a really high mobility jungler. Hecarim is a extremely high mobility jungler, right? This is a gank potential, to say the least, especially when you're shoving in, you're trying to bring the Sivir down, you're trying to zone her off CS. You're always going to be vulnerable to the potential gank from this Hecarim, and now that they've got themselves a Tahm Kench, it's going to be even more difficult than it was in the first place to apply that pressure, because now once you start getting some purchase, you might get her to a third, half HP, she's just going to get eaten, brought back out. Galio would have to taunt up the TK, hopefully maybe kill the Tahm Kench at that point, but even if you can, it's incredibly risky.
Ooh, speaking of taunting, the Lissandra pick says a lot here and gives Big Magic Stick's pool a little bit more vulnerability in this second ban phase. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to imagine both bans would be flying at this AD role, right? I would ban out here, I'd ban the Draven every single time. I would take that out, and realistically, I would also probably remove Lucian.
I'm thinking Lucian here, yeah.
Just from the history. If you don't take those two out, you're going to have to target the top lane. And they are going to target the top lane. They're going to go towards the Sylas. Because they've already banned out Vladimir and Sylas, the next most likely pick up in that top side could be something along the lines of the Kennen for a counter-engage composition, or even banning out something that's, a little bit more just aggression-focused. The Riven is a potential pick. The Aatrox has completely fallen off. You have Yora's appearing there quite occasionally. Sometimes you see the Kled. They're going to go for the Jinx.
So look at this, too, on the side of Montreal here. They pick up the Xayah. They ban the Sejuani, so they say, you know what, we're not fooled by this Hecarim thinking that it's just going to be a jungler. We know that 25th Soul can play this in the top side. So they're reading that one with some relative caution here, and you have to wonder if JHU were prepared for that, mid lane.
They are. They are,
Lissandra.
certainly.
Yeah,
I mean, look at this, right? The Corki pick in Lissandra, he's got the range advantage. The wave clear is about at parity once he hits 6. Before 6, the Lissandra does shove better, so the Jarvan should have slight jungle priority because of the fact that the Corki will be shoved in slightly. But after 6, it's pretty much even. So the last pick has to be either a top or a jungle pick. I'd think that they would go for a top laner here. I'd like to see somebody with, potentially a little bit of CC. They're not going to. They're in fact going to go the exact opposite direction. Kha'Zix, damage all the way down. He's going to be their jungler. Hecarim will be their top laner. And because they have the Kha'Zix, now the lanes are in a little bit of danger, right? What is remaining is potentially a top or jungle flex. Jarvan hasn't been flex top that often, and instead they will indeed opt for the Jarvan jungle, Poppy top lane, Poppy against Hecarim. This is, I wouldn't say a good matchup for either one. It's not a bad matchup though, right? The Hecarim can't really die to the Poppy without some kind of external pressure, but because he has no flash, unless he's level 6, he can get run down very easily. The Poppy has movement speed, the Jarvan has flag and drag, he has, in fact, his ultimate, which will be impassable to the Hecarim unless he can do some kind of a leap out of it, and that's very, very unlikely, because after all, the Hecarim leap is quite short range. To use the leap over a wall, you need people positioned exactly the way they have to be standing, right? It has to be next to the thinnest walls on the map. And if they're in the center of the circle, if they're just waiting around for you, maybe even if Poppy W's up, you're not going to be able to leap, right? The leap gets stopped or it doesn't go far enough, and then he's going to be in a world of trouble.
With that, we'll see which of these two teams is going to come out providing more trouble for the other one here. Compositionally, some interesting breakdowns, some things that I feel like we've not seen from either team just yet. But hey, here we are, round of 4, basically, in the winner's bracket. I know that would technically be semifinals, but I don't know how the loser's bracket changes that discussion.
We're going to call it winner's bracket semis.
Winner's bracket
I think that's
semis.
the best way to put it, right?
Clean.
It's round of 4, winner's bracket. So winner's bracket semifinals here. And realistically, right, the only thing that changes is if a team loses, they have a chance, right? They can still make it through losers. So these two teams, both incredibly competent as of this far. Johns Hopkins dropping 1 game, Montreal dropping 3 total, right? Talking about just...
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
this is some
Talk
powerhouse league play.
Inches between the two. So soon we'll be able to load onto the Rift, but man, these two teams are going to be hard-pressed to find advantages. I think that this time around specifically, Big Magic Stick is going to have his work cut out for him. If he can't stop the Sivir, if he can't find purchase onto her, and actually start to, accrue some kind of a CS lead, or at the very least, a level lead, any kind of an advantage, it's going to be a very difficult game.
I think so, and, Big Magic Stick, he's a big win condition for his team. Johns Hopkins, they've drafted a composition that can shut him down with relative ease if he does not get the protective sort of backup that he needs here coming out of the rest of his team. If Mysterio and Dushi and Enigma and Alcas, if they all want to be, dive hero champions and don't offer the proper protection that Big Magic Stick needs, well, he might get broken in half just like a twig by 25th Soul and Nightstone in particular. I mean, these are players we know obviously have no qualms getting right in your face and playing down to kind of some of the most aggressive facets they can. Usually what we see from Johns Hopkins is slow starts where they eke out, a 2-3k gold lead until about 15 minutes, and then all of a sudden the afterburners come on, usually off the back of a Rift Herald play. And Montreal, they certainly can't afford to allow that to happen. Instead, just going to start safely here. Everyone, nothing too big on the map, and get to a laning phase where they're hoping to eke out some early advantages.
Just waiting. I mean, at this point, right? It's all about where the pressure comes from. If it's, mid lane pressure and we see a bunch of advantages start to accrue there, then the Corki could be in a lot of danger, right? The Lissandra has, a great way to lock him down, multiple forms of CC. His cleanse only blocks one of them, and that's the most immediate one that actually hits. So if the Jarvan lands his knockup, you can't cleanse the knockup unless you cleanse and flash. You get knocked up, then you get rooted. You have to cleanse. If that happens, you're flashing probably immediately after, but what are you going to do about the Lissandra ultimate, right? At 6, the Corki seems relatively safe, but that's only until you start factoring in the basically massive amounts of CC that Montreal can actually bring to bear.
We certainly do have CC upon CC if they get the chance to group up and stack it on down. That is the question. And obviously the ticket to getting to that position is going to be their laning phase, whether or not they feel like they can come out of that ahead enough to fight, if they don't give up too much of a CS deficit, if they don't give up too much of these early kills. It can get them in a lot of trouble. There's options on the table for them throughout the rest of the game, because compositionally, I mean, this is a team from Montreal that can really just
good
give
stun.
all sorts of pressure and pain. 25th Soul feeling some of that off the rip here at the top, and this might actually be the signal to come in. There's the flag and drag. Doesn't connect, though. He does actually opt to go back the other way into Night's Dawn, who's here for a return gank. And Mysterio, he wants it. Enigma's here. They get first blood, but Mysterio, is he going to die for it? Is Enigma going to die? That's a lot of flashes to get out, but they want to get in more. There's the Jarvan. And James, you might be in some trouble here, my friend. It's a lot of low health bars, and he does have that, but the Flash gonna get in.
Cleanse.
Maybe trying to find him. There's the root. Beautiful play to snap that one out. UDEM. Beautifully done to get themselves first blood and the second to follow up. They're gonna go back just desserts. Gotta love it. That involved the entire top half of the map. It was wonderfully executed.
So the reason that that worked out so well is the way that Enigma played mid, right? The only reason they get the kills is because he has excellent priority mid lane. Lissandra's Q hasn't... Actually, I don't believe the nerfs have gone live. That was going to increase it to a 10-second cooldown. If they have, he's still actually pressuring remarkably well, given that fact. And whatever the case might be, right? He's pressuring with his Qs. He's managed the wave really well. Shoved it so far that he got there nearly 5 seconds before the Corki. Because he's getting there 5 seconds earlier, Hecarim on no flash has no chance to escape. At that point, Night's Dawn and James both overcommit to the fight. Because the Kha'Zix has leap, he gets out. Unfortunately for the Corki, right? So underleveled, no chance to escape. He cleanses, he flashes both of his summoners. His protection, his ability to stay alive in the mid lane, now put completely in question because, after all, the CC still remains, and his cleanse does not.
Right, I mean, if this Jarvan can come back around at any point, James could be in some real trouble here. Mysterio not going to be able to threaten that as much with the teleport, so actually with this Infernal Drake coming around, you might wonder if we're going to see some more action focused around this bot side of the map. It's a bit harder to gank on both sides, but look at that. The pressure is certainly alive and well for Johns Hopkins. They want to keep it up, keep it moving, and they're happy to just harass here with this Tahm Kench, stay in the face of their opponents, and you can already tell this is where Dushi wants to be sticking around. He's getting the wards up at the very least. Control ward in that brush. He may be on a collision course for this one from potential. We'll just clear it. You can tell Night's Dawn, conversely, he's hanging around the top half of the map. He wants to get 25th Soul rolling. You know, an early death onto the Hecarim in the top lane against this Poppy, who did pick up the kill. That's something you're going to want to address sooner rather than later.
Yeah, it really is. And unfortunately, it's not looking like Night's Dawn is going to get it for free, right? The Jarvan is still pressuring in. There's a root. Lissandra ultimate in.
Enigma's there. Yeah, James, no flash to get out of this one. Makes it easy. As Dushi is there to pick up a massive one for himself. Getting himself on the board. 1-1 and 1.
Oh, be careful, 25th Soul. You do have ultimate, but
Mysterio wants it. Yeah, he wants to get in further for this one. I don't think he can. Stun. But the trades are just going to continue to favor him as it goes.
He doesn't have enough damage either. Right? That's the real problem. Because he needs to land charge. He can't land charge if Poppy W is up.
Oh, beautifully done, Mysterio. You're kidding me. Wow. 4 kills in the first 6 minutes, almost 7 here. Coming out now to the side of Montreal. And they are just playing with a fire under them. I'm loving it.
It is true, though, right? Remember, every time we're talking about these top teams, when we're talking about Johns Hopkins, when we're talking about, you know, ARMU, right? Top teams that have been playing super well, they have exploitable early games, basically to a T, right? So often do we see them drop down early, start losing games, not know what to do, and then mid-game, everything clicks. They just have that moment of brilliance, and then the macro play makes perfect sense, and then they execute, get a lead, end the game. But if you go down far enough, that's not going to be possible.
So for reference, we're about halfway to the point where usually we see Johns Hopkins make that stellar play, make everything come together. Yeah. Usually, though, that's on the back of about a 3K gold lead to themselves. I don't think we've seen that.
It's usually about an even at the very worst. I think we've never seen it at a major deficit.
Right. So this time around, we've got about 1.5K building to the favor of UDM. Montreal trying to get more out of this one, and you got to think so much of this has been off the back of this Jarvan play. The jungle has been exceptional, I would say, thus far. So if he can keep up this pressure, if he can maintain this pace and really keep Nightstone on the back foot, things are only going to seem to get a little better. He wants to fight this in the 1v1, but that's a red buff Kha'Zix, and you are isolated. Doesn't matter. He doesn't want to take the challenge. Yeah, insane.
That's the thing, right? Even though he seems like he's in the wrong spot, because he lands the knock, if Kha'Zix doesn't get the leap, he doesn't dodge out that flag and drag, there's no way for Nightstone to realistically contest, because, after all, Enigma's right there, right? You know Flash is up, you know she has incredible mobility. If you stick around, the Lissandra is going to punish you, and he can't risk that, right? Going down again to this Lissandra would basically be the death knell for the Kha'Zix. He needs to be getting plays, he needs to be getting kills. If he's dead all the time, that's never going to happen. So, takes the safe play, backs out instead, doesn't want to actually get trapped here, but the more times that happens where he backs out instead of taking the fight, the more control that Montreal is going to get over this game.
You do love to see that building out. Here's a team that may be, at least in the early game, able to take it to Johns Hopkins. They still have a long road ahead of them. I mean, JHU, phenomenal team, and they're undefeated for a reason. Montreal looking to challenge that crown, and maybe they brought the right sauce in the early game, but there's a chance here, of course. The one-team fight all going topsy-turvy. Johns Hopkins, they're no strangers to that play, and you can tell Montreal are putting that respect on it where they need to. They grouped up around this dragon. They had 4 members there. They backed it off entirely. They're actually going to surrender this Infernal Drake 100% to Johns Hopkins. They said, we can't take the fight, and we have to back off now to such a point that Kha'Zix can really just burn this thing right on down. Potential's there if he needs any little bit of tanking, but I don't think he does. I think this is just Kha'Zix soloing out the Infernal, and that one's going to be...
It was just because of the Jarvan position, right? If they really wanted to contest, the Jarvan needed to clear top down instead of down to top. If he clears top to down, then he can actually maybe think about being there in time, or, you know, you're potentially giving up some farm advantage. But the other thing is, his bot lane hadn't backed in forever, right? They don't have that many items. If they take a fight and they lose it, they don't just lose the Infernal Drake, they lose a lot more. So what they're doing is they're giving away a guaranteed small concession rather than a potentially much larger risk and taking the much, much safer route, right? The safe route is, we know what we're going to lose, we can measure that, we can mitigate it. The not so safe route is, well, let's see if we can win it. And not taking that, I think, is pretty okay.
Yeah, they rolled the dice once already in this matchup, bringing everyone up to that kind of top half river for that fight. It worked out phenomenally for them. They're not rolling any dice this time around, just keeping it much safer. And Wadushi's going to be spot out here on the ward. He's going to get one over the wall for himself and just kind of move right back along with it. They should have a pretty good read on this one. Going to open up for Nightstone to do a little bit more if he wants to. I think red buff is the next ticket here that he's going to be turning his eye towards before too long, and maybe they'll just scare each other off. But that's a back from the Corki in the meantime, so see if Enigma wants to get his hands on anything at all here. He does have teleport, keep in mind. A little bit more roaming potential now from this side of Montreal, from this Lissandra. I mean, you talk about the composition having some global options, especially now with Galio being post level 6 and a teleport from Mysterio. This could get ugly quickly. If they decided to turn and fight for anything, it's just a matter of, I think both teams are currently very happy to let this laning phase continue. It's been going very well in the kill department for Montreal. The farm has been leaning advantageously now towards the side of Johns Hopkins.
Very slightly, though. I mean, we're talking 10 CS differential overall versus a 4 kill differential.
Yeah.
That's pretty large, right? That's a gap that you're not going to overcome with just that amount of CS. So I'd say that there's still probably a reason why, you know, this gold lead is in the favor of Montreal. The question is it going to remain that way? They're going to try to force the issue, actually. Watch potential. When he steps up too far, Jushi is going to go.
Yeah, instantly on him. That's just a quick dunk. He does get the shield off, but the Cataclysm forces the flash. And just like that, they threw a lot at him, but it wasn't enough
Had to
get
Cataclysm
kill.
earlier, right?
Yeah.
The thing is, he's in Cataclysm range to start. If you don't Cataclysm at the start of the fight right there, you don't force the flash. Cataclysm is the only thing that can force him to flash away. Once that happens, then you flag and drag. That's the mobility tool. That allows you to get in, get the knockup, and land the combo CC, right? The real problem is, the combo CC wasn't enough in the start. You need to burn flash, then get the combo down, and you can think about killing them, or just do it anyway.
Yeah, they're happy to dive between towers. Enigma in some trouble as well. He's going to get back. James definitely cannot risk even one turret shot here. Meanwhile, the reinforcements did show up between the two lines.
Yeah, Kha'Zix's TPing with the Tom Kench back in the bottom lane.
Yeah, brought him right along. Had some help, had some reinforcements, and now both junglers looking to go to the mid lane, find each other on the way. And meanwhile, Mysterio going to get found out by 25th Soul in the top lane. This is some bad news for 25th Soul. Going to get out in time, actually. No. And does stay around a little too long. Gives the 1-for-1 trade. 3-11 now to Mysterio. 1-3-0 now in the hands of 25th Soul. Is that trade really worth it?
Yes, right? The reason it's worth it, in my eyes, is at the very least, the Hecarim is getting kill gold. So, even though the Poppy gets gold, Poppy's a tank, right? Poppy's not going to just run over your team because she's getting super fed. The Hecarim needs gold. He needs pressure. He needs to be able to, claw back into the lane. So, even though he's getting slightly more gold because it's, the bonus bounty, which is another 150, it's 450 total. What he's doing, though, is he's saying, okay, I'm going to force you to burn something, right? Burned the flash off the Poppy. Now, in fights, they're not going to have that summoner. Sure, he doesn't have his combat summoner either, but flash for Ignite, pretty okay trade when you're trying to mitigate the fact that they have an advantage across the map.
Makes sense. Checks out. We'll see what he can do with that. It does come further now into the lane. We have the full-on Sunfire finish by Mysterio, but he says, well, you know what? I don't need time on this one. We've got Night's Dawn right here.
Maybe not so good.
Are all alone. Mysterio doing what he can, but that's really not much. And here comes James as well, just to get a finger in the pie there as well. Gets himself on the assist board. He needed something favorable, and that's going to be a fairly big pickup, a.k.a. the Rift Herald. This is around 15 minutes. This is where Johns Hopkins always starts to show them signs of life. And you said, hey, last time it was break even at worst. Well, it's break even now. Gold is squarely tied up between the two. Rift Herald's going to go their way. This is starting to look like the tide is very much turning in JHU's favor. Might be
second Infernal, though, and it's going over. I mean, there's no way to stop this. He's got Smite down. Unless there's a catastrophic mistake by the Jarvan. This is a dragon, and evening up the Infernal Drake count, I think, is very, very important when you're talking about the late game potential of these two teams. If you allow two Infernals to go over to a team with double, 80 carries, you're really asking to, get punched for it. Like, this is not a very good play, but the top turret will drop. No plates taken. First turret, though, at the very least, it is some gold back in their favor.
This actually should just peter out right here. I don't think that
yeah,
going to be
no,
any chance
second charge
of another charge here. So for Mysterio, that's a fairly risky Rift Herald, all things considered, just to get one tower. We usually see Johns Hopkins able to stretch that just a little bit further, right?
I think the reason they didn't stretch it is because of what they got, right? Their timing on the backs was so good because of the Rift Herald there. All they had to do, right, is they get the first pick. Because Poppy's overextended, all three of the members who can respond to the topside push are either not paying attention or backed in base. The Jarvan isn't there. Lissandra's literally sitting mid lane, like having to hard farm it out. She's the one who got pushed in. The Galio's back in base. So with no response, Poppy pushes out, gets punished for it by a great roam, and then they say, okay, quick Rift Herald, drop it, get first turret, right? Just get guaranteed gold. We don't care about the long term. We don't care about, multiple turrets. We have a Sivir. So all they want to do is get guaranteed gold in their pocket and close this gold gap that they were experiencing. They're not experiencing it anymore, but that is exactly why. All they wanted to do was take the guaranteed, really quick amount of easy cash back into their pocket.
It's my money and I need it now, Johns Hopkins yells out the window to the clouds. Well, they do get it. They find it for themselves. And here, just past 17 minutes, we'll see if they can turn that into the advantage that they need. They've been...
We had a CSGO team named after that commercial.
Did
oh
you?
my god.
Oh my.
Yeah, we did.
Oh my.
Anyway, if you're too young to understand what we're talking about, or you don't remember the infamous infomercials, the early 2000s, then I feel bad, but don't feel as bad as Mysterio does right now.
Yeah, he's caught between a rock and several hard places. There's just no getting out of that one. It's a big group up. Enigma has to use the Ice Claw to get out. This is going to signal that they can take the tower here in the bottom
Ro4
lane.
might be dead,
but,
though.
yeah.
He gets out for now.
Ooh, that's a fairly big takeaway. They do give the 1 kill for the 1 turret. I think that actually, if they can hold this out, keep this from
It's
going down.
definitely in favor. Watch the flash!
Oh, what a taunt as well. Nightstone just leaping out of that one. They did cancel each other out. Beautifully
You need
done.
that ultimate, right? If
Ooh.
the Enigma ult comes down, if it's... Sorry, not Enigma's ult. If Enigma uses the Lissandra ult, trying to confuse you Dota players, but the ultimate, right? That comes down onto Nightstone, he dies instantly. You gotta make sure you're getting that flash ultimate. The instant you get the root, you have to be setting it up for the follow-up. Chain the CC together, make sure that's all not layered at all, right? Properly chained, and you get that kill. So, just a matter of using the resources properly, then you don't waste the flash onto Alcos, you just get the kill, and you save the turret. They saved the turret anyway, but they didn't get a kill for it.
It's been a little looking on the back, but things still going effectively now for Montreal, but shakier in the execution. This is Johns Hopkins able to apply that pressure. Now we're seeing kind of a dynamic shift across the map here. The top lane tower down for Montreal, the bot lane down for Johns Hopkins, and the lane swap setups are looking a little staggered here. I don't know if they're just going to go into full lane swap effect of top to bottom or not, but currently Enigma is holding this one down in the bot lane for Montreal. They just want to keep that easy, free farm coming right into the hands of the Lissandra and keeping that away from too much pressure. Most of those Ice Claws we've seen have been defensive ones, have been retreating. Enigma, he's, been in the line of fire for a little bit of this, but he's happy to just get out and stay safe. Playing his life has been what he's been going for thus far, and it's got him down a little bit in the CS to James, but that kill should kind of be nullifying that across the board at this point.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be close, right? A kill for 30 CS isn't exactly caught, but ooh, Nightstone almost was. Invisibility, not camouflage. Keep in mind the difference because it matters a world to Nightstone right there. He stays alive somehow. Perfect almost catch onto him, but again, Tom Kench with a great read on where he needs to be. Potential rescues yet another member, and so far, I'm pretty sure has saved them over 1,000 gold in potential loss. So Tom Kench, a great pickup to keep the team alive, keep them out of their early game mistakes. Almost a habit at this point of making these errors, but whatever it is, unforced or not, Johns Hopkins certainly are feeling the pressure. They're sweating something mighty fierce right about now, and the Dragon, the third Infernal, 3 in a row at 20 minutes is going to be the next pain point.
Yeah, speaking of sweating,
Full 5v5.
Infernal Drake here to bring the heat. He's still actually tacking onto some members.
Oh, they're going to go for
They
this.
just want to fire on the weak flank. That's going to be coming in, but Big Magic Stick, he's getting out in time. They burned a lot to get there. No, Corky is on the back line. James goes for it. 25th Soul swallowed up. Enigma has to ult himself. 25th Soul is going to go down. They are going to be able to answer that one back, though. That's Alcos going down. James, can they get him? The answer is yes. And now it's a 3 versus 3, but here they come for the turn back. They're going to get more. This should be Montreal coming out huge, and they find the triple kill. Make it a quadra, I believe. Yes. That one comes out. Enigma pops off huge. The Infernal Drake will be theirs. The ace is the cherry on top, and they lose their bot lane, but they gain so much more.
And you watch the way that Montreal play this fight. They start kiting back perfectly as soon as you see the overextension for Big Magic Stick. Yes, Corky gets the kill, but you notice James is so far out, Potential has to flash just to get him. As soon as that eat happens, the rest of the team is collapsing, and at that point, the health bars are just dropping too low. The Lissandra passives start going off, and when those ghosts start running, you better hit the trail as well. They don't in time. Enigma picks up a ton of kills on the backside of the fight, and it's a great Infernal Dragon pickup, plus a gold advantage for Montreal. The way that that was panned out, though, I mean, you gotta say, JHU, if they get maybe a less experienced team, one that is less ready to respond, things go their way, but it just didn't work out.
This is what happens when you spend the entire season on the top. People know how to respond to your play. There's so much footage out there on JHU, more than any other JV school right now, just because, I mean, we love seeing these guys on stream, right? Cannot get enough of the Blue Jays here. They're the Winter Invitational finalists. I mean, you have so much to look at when you're talking about how to plan and prep against them. Montreal evidently have done their homework and are coming out into this game fairly large. Obviously, the gold lead so minimal now, such a small difference. It really hasn't gotten to a big difference at any point in the game that you'd expect the potential to tilt shift back there. So easy. Any misstep, you know JHU can and will punish. Montreal, they're just trying to stay ahead of that and get a punish for themselves. This is an exciting game of League of Legends, to say the least here. And I think the bigger implication now, the second Infernal Drake, is the later this game goes, the more that percentage will matter, and it can't be really brought back to even at this point. There is no nullification for that besides just getting items that would otherwise kind of bring that one back into heel.
Elder.
Okay,
Elder's
sure.
certainly a way to even that out, but again, so far away, right? So far away, over 10 minutes in the future. And I gotta say, as it stands right now, you know, taking the side lane outer towers, it's not an insane play, right? But at the very least, Montreal are taking their lead and they're starting to push it. You know, they're testing the waters. Where does JHU strike back? How much are they willing to commit for these objectives that inevitably are going to drop at some point in the game? I think realistically, this is going to be a mid lane pressure next, because after all, got their Poppy in the side lane, they're shoving out top with Lissandra, then they're going to try to rotate. They're going to try to find a pick, because this is crucial. Poppy can stop 25th Soul's teleport much more easily than he can stop hers, right? E is on a much shorter cooldown, she has ultimate to boot, she's got tons of tools, whereas 25th Soul has exactly charge and his ult. So, yes, his charge is on a low cooldown as well, but 25th Soul is the one who needs to be in these fights. You know, he is a huge force in disruption. He's a huge part of their ability to CC people. Mysterio, not so much, you know? They've got still Lissandra and Galio and Jarvan. They've got a lot of frontline and a lot of CC, a lot of ways to protect Big Magic Stick to allow Enigma to chain off of their plays. But what do the side of Johns Hopkins have in the 4 versus 4, right? That's the real question. They have 2 ADCs, neither of which has great itemization. The Corki, yeah, he's on the Triforce, so at the very least he has that item, but that's about it.
It's getting a little bit trickier here when you're looking at the game in a macro sense, especially if 25th Soul's taken a beating like this in his own minions to Mysterio.
He's just going to run out, though.
Want to try to follow that one just a little further down. There's no tower to retreat to here, keep in mind, but we'll have the backup before too long should he need it. That's just a great chase-off coming out from Mysterio, actually just trying to force him back, get him out of the play and pocket here this time around. And you talk about having teleport options. Well, there's no way to cancel if you're that far back, right? So Mysterio here, this will be...
Well, no, that wasn't his teleport. That was 4's teleport.
Oh, no, I was just saying in general,
yeah,
if Mysterio did need a teleport for a team fight, that could come up here, right? There's no way now that 25th Soul could be able to stop him from all the way back in base. You have 4 coming in with a teleport for Sivir, just to be safe, just to keep things on watch here and make sure that this Baron does not become too idly and easily contested or taken away.
This turret's going to drop soon, but the question is, when do they want to pressure, right? Montreal are looking for an opening. They haven't found one yet, and that's because now the cleanse is up onto Corki again, right? So he's going to be relatively safe against Lissandra in the side lane. There's not too much they can do against him. He's going to farm out. So they have to end this game relatively soon if they want to take advantage of the fact that they've got Xayah, Lissandra. Lissandra's huge. Xayah's on nearly 3 items. You need to do something with that. You know, you need to take your front line, start abusing it until it gets to the super late game and your tanks really matter. You know, right now is one of the strongest points which you're going to be the entire game.
You raise a very valid point there. That they need to find some way to continue to capitalize on this to make sure they don't start slowly sliding by the wayside here and giving up too much pressure to this Johns Hopkins team. Well, maybe looking at the Cloud Drake is a nice step in that direction. They were maybe hoping for more of a fight. Doesn't matter. They get the Drake. It's going to be another Cloud Drake up next. And Johns Hopkins, they're not fooled. They don't care about a Cloud Drake. They want this tower. They want to get the turret lead for themselves here, but looks like they want the fight coming in. That's going to be massive if they can land the ult, which they do not. Alkos doesn't get it. 25th Soul is there, but Alkos looking to turn it back around. 25th Soul on his backline. Sivers already down. Gone. That's going to be Hecarim as well. They do lose the Jarvan, but this is massive as another one comes out. Corki, James cannot survive it, and Big Magic Stick again coming up huge in this fight. He gets another kill. That's Enigma coming up massively as well. I mean, these guys are huge on the side of Montreal, and they're going to get a tower back for themselves as well.
They're going to get two.
Oh,
they have to get two right here, right? How do you stop this? If you try to stop it, you just get CC'd. You just get brought down, right? Enigma, Alkos, they not only have the CC, but they have the tankiness, as you see there, to take quite a few turret shots, and they get both mid towers. The overextension of JHU wasn't the real problem. The real problem was, after they lose a member, they're super willing to fight. And that's super, super bad for them, because when Night's Dawn gets caught, you see potential rushes in, he eats him and almost gets out. Spits him out, walks away. At that point, all JHU have to do is not continue to engage, but then they get caught slightly too far up again by Enigma. The CC starts to chain. The Sivir is left completely defenseless. There's no real front line to protect her, so she just gets demolished. And then at that point, it's the gloves coming completely off. They just run in. James at the very end of the fight, I mean, he W's in on an attempt, whatever it was, but dies as well. And that's so many members going down again for Johns Hopkins. And again, just losing the mid-game fights that they so often have won. This is not a look that we see them in most of the time, if ever, during this entire season. So how they're going to respond, I have no idea. We have never seen them in this situation before.
Yeah, it's unprecedented territory here. Don't know if they're used to it in their scrims. You always, on a collegiate level, want to be kind of scrimming up. That's one option that, thankfully for most JV teams, if you have a JV program, you're likely to have a varsity program, some players to help you kind of get better at the game here. So I don't want to say that maybe they've never played from behind as this 5-man roster, but obviously not something we see, have seen ever in a competitive actual match here. So Montreal, they're coming up big, and so much of it off the back of Enigma. This guy is now 6-0-5. Started out a little slower, but has been getting by with a little help from his friends. I mean, come the team fight stage, he's been looking like an absolute monster. They definitely want to find a way now to force that out, and it looks like Baron is going to be the card that they try to use. They've got wards all over. They know they can threaten it. They just want to find more. That's douchey, and it's going to be Nightstone trapped up, forced to flash out, but the Hecarim is still in there with the ultimate. He's actually going to find several and keep the time going. This is actually looking a lot better for Johns Hopkins off the start. Enigma is out of position, has to use a stopwatch, but that's going to be the first one coming down. 4 as well. Double kill now for Big Magic Stick. He's coming online. Make it more, because this one is now James on the run for his life, the last surviving member. They don't even care. They do lose Big Magic Stick, but this should be the Baron for themselves all the same. You wonder if it's possible without their Xayah damage. They seem to think so. And James with
way
no
more
HP is
4 members, Jarvan's at full HP. There's absolutely nothing to worry about, right? You just keep going. You just absolutely take them down. They're threatening onto the Corki. They're still pressuring him out, making him respect the fact that they do have 4 members up. And the Galio can do that for forever, right? If they land Taunt, they land CC, he drops like that.
Just like that. It's another free kill piled onto the top of things, and 25th Soul not up for another 10 seconds with that teleport. This Baron will be long gone, ash and dust by that point. And they are going to get away scot-free with that one. Could have waited maybe another second to get it in on the Big Magic Stick. He does respawn without the Baron buff, but I understand the urgency.
You don't really want to risk it, right? Even though it's potential that you get it and it's good, why risk it, You don't need 5 Barons necessarily. It's not the just stat buff that it used to be. It's all about the minion pushing. So if you have somebody in the vicinity of Big Magic Stick, you're going to get pretty much all the benefits. It's not just about the stats. It's not just about that anymore. So if this was a couple seasons ago, or not a couple seasons, showing my age slightly, but if this was quite a few seasons ago, I would agree. You wait for it. It's all about the stat buff. That's how you're ending the game. But that's not the case anymore. They've got quite a few strong members. Their AD carry has died, and basically the last 2 major fights that they've had, they've still won it out. So they're not super worried. They're going to take another dragon, add it onto the pile. This looks to be a mountain, I believe. And once they collect that,
I recall it being another cloud, if I recall correctly. I think it's...
I cannot recall correctly. That is the problem. So we'll see as it starts getting taken what pops up on the screen. But it is a mountain. Oh no, is that a cloud?
It's a cloud.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm having a very hard time seeing with my artificial eyes and not being what they used to. So anyway,
Happens to the best of us.
happens the best of us, you know? Sometimes the cyborg implants just aren't working properly. You know, that's the thing. So, with that in their pocket, 4 dragons to boot, a bunch of damage, 1 team fights, and a collapse onto Big.
This is where they want it. Yeah, Magic Stick's all alone here. He's not going to have any chance to come through with that one. Knight's Dawn doing a good job. Everyone really getting in and playing their part there. They make a big pick, and Magic Stick for another 45 seconds. He's a massive part of this team. They want to just get more kills, but they're going to lose an inhibitor for this potentially. If Enigma is left alone and to his devices, they send James back, but that's not going to be enough.
That's going to be an inhib.
Oh, mercy. That's a big takeaway, too. You don't want to just give that up, so they give up the ADC. They're going to get 1 or 2 more kills here for sure. Enigma and Dushi, I don't think they're getting out of this one, although they do want to turn the fight back around. They're committing to a full 4 because they have 25th Soul's health bar low. Potential is low. That's going to be Corky on the back line. James in some real trouble. This is going to go down. They have already lost more, though.
Goes.
Double kill on the Poppy. Mysterio, you monster. Keep it on up. Knight's Dawn in some real trouble here. 25th Soul,
They can't do damage to him.
Yeah, they should be able to finally pick this kill up.
He's just buying time. I mean, okay, there we go. He does eventually fall, but man alive, so much damage poured into the Poppy before he actually falls down. And that is the reason that Johns Hopkins are having such a difficult time. Montreal have been taking them to the cleaners, and they continue to do so. They sneak Enigma in, even though they lost Big Magic Stick, even though he had no chance to participate in the fight. They win it out anyway, right? Trading even in the kills, getting the inhibitor, that's a win in my book. And they're going to keep stacking this up. The more kills they get, the more damage they get. It's just, it seems like it's all working out for them. And part of the benefit, right? I don't know how it is, but Enigma continues to live. He's got himself self-ulting, he's got the Zanyas to boot, so much time spent invulnerable, where he's regenning, where he's just, you know, deflecting or redirecting damage, because they have to pay attention to the alive members as well. It means that Johns Hopkins is not able to kill him, and he is a huge tour de force in keeping them ahead in this game. So,
son of a gun's doing the absolute most, and you can tell he pinged it out 3 times. They know they got James cleanse in that last fight, right?
Oh yeah.
So you have to imagine he's just itching to get in on.
There's no QSS on either AD.
Oh mercy! This is going to be the turning point.
If they get flashed on, right? Sivir better have a shield ready, and it better not get popped. That's the only thing that saves her. The thing that saves Corky is nothing. 0 things save him from a flash ultimate. So keep that in mind. Enigma at the forefront. Now they're going to pressure in towards this turret again. Just look for the damage.
They have
James's flash, the one saving grace.
It is going to be needed to use basically perfectly if they do want to keep up and alive in this game. They're not so far behind in the gold discussion. 5K at 35 minutes is not a massive deficit compared to where we normally see games around the 35-minute tick, right? It's either, you know, usually dead even or a huge deficit, but 5K is, well, it's negotiable at this point, right? You got to think if the fight goes right on the right set of terms, maybe Johns Hopkins could have a little dog in it at this point. They obviously proved they can get the tag onto Big Magic Stick early, but then Mysterio is such a harder thing to deal with, and Enigma being as slippery as he is, you can tell Montreal, they're happy to just back off, set up for another Baron. It went so well for them last time. What do they have to lose? It should be Elder Drake coming up next as well, and then they're going to have some decisions on their hands. What do they split here? What's more important? Where does the priority lie?
I think it's always towards this Elder, right? The thing is, their fights have been somewhat close. You know, they haven't been that close, but they've been somewhat close. You get a 4-Dragon Elder, doesn't matter if they have Baron or not, you're just going to run them over. You're going to absolutely demolish them. Make up for this growing damage differential that comes from the fact that they have 280 carries, plus a really damage-heavy jungler. You know, that's actually something to worry about. And it would be completely negated by a 4-Dragon Elder. So, with Baron coming up first, they're obviously going to posture towards it, but if they lose the Elder for the Baron, it's not the worst thing in the world. It's a one drag Elder, and for a single dragon, I'm not sure they're willing to give up the push advantage. So, actually, you know, I said it was always the Elder, right? They could do either one, actually. It doesn't matter which one they really want to do, but I guess because this is up first, they're going to do it first. Question is this an overextension? We've seen JHU turn around so many times at the Baron, and here they come to start it all off.
Nightstawn's taunted. That's the jungler. He's deleted. No Baron potential now coming out. No steal. If they can just get the fight down, they will have a massive advantage as well. But they just want to take the Baron. Look at the health just getting shredded. It's easy. It's clean. It's picked up. I don't think Johns Hopkins had any idea it would melt that fast, but losing Nightstawn, that's essentially the death sentence.
Yeah, it's just a great flank, right? Again, Enigma so crucial in this, but it's set up by Alkos. He has CC, he lands it, Nightstawn dies with his flash up. Not respecting the potential from the Galio, could have flashed out of the taunt, could have flashed out of the jab, didn't do either.
Can't just face check a brush like that. Tom Kench makes it somewhat okay, but look at that. The health bars are just getting shredded everywhere else. Alkos is there. Magic Stick, he's on the way out, and Enigma needs to get in this fight a little bit more because Alkos is already down 4, is relatively untouched. And Enigma could be in some real trouble here, actually. He does get the pickup, and that's big. 4 does go down. James on the back line. They're going to get 25th Soul right out of the GA as well. Mysterio, can you get this one? Can you survive, or is James such a threat? They're going to try to get in. Big Magic Stick on the flank. Beautifully done. But it does require Mysterio.
They can't do this. They have to leave.
Oh, my.
They got to realize this at some point. They have to leave. There's no way they can just take this with the Kha'Zix up, right?
Oh, Douchies wants to try. The teleport's coming in as well.
Okay. Enigma's coming back. That means they can take it. If Kha'Zix walks in, he dies.
Essentially, they know it too. That's going to be threatening off with the Ice Claw. Forces the leap, so there will be no way to get into that one without a flash. And Mercy, they're looking unstoppable.
You have to think this is the end, right? You've got Elder, you've got Baron, you've got blind open inhibitor, waves pushing in 2 lanes. You have to think this is going to be the last hurrah, right? Johns Hopkins, for once, are on the complete back foot. They weren't able to pull it back in the mid game. Their super late game, while it is 2 scaling champs, hasn't worked out either.
And 65k gold to the team. You like to think you might have seen something out of these scaling guys. Well, you know James and 4, they're damage threats, right? They can definitely output said damage, but there's just no survivability. Tom Kench is not enough to peel for both of these guys at once, and the backline options are just there in spades between Mysterio, Douchey, and Alkos. I mean, these guys have no fear for it, and I think especially just giving over some, kind of callous picks like Nightstawn did around that Baron's not helping the case for JHU at all. They're going to have to start regrouping and really think about what needs to change here in the second game, because at almost 40 minutes here on this game, any kill they pick up for themselves should be a window to end things this late.
And I gotta say, they're setting up for a great 4-1 split. This has been a really hard thing to deal with. They have nobody who can actually counter out Enigma, and they really can't contest an Elder Baron up team. So Montreal will get all 3 inhibitors to boot. It's just a matter of time. And then, what does JHU do? They have to pull the trigger. They have all 5 members here. But look at Montreal. Great back off. They aren't giving them an opportunity, and that's just giving Lissandra time to chip away at this tower.
They know they need to play to the kind of confines of their split push here. That's 3 now coming down for this Lissandra.
This is the 3rd inhibitor that's under pressure. Remember, double super siege minions are now going to be the ones that the inhibitor has to contend with, and there's just so little time, so little that they can do.
Enigma's in, 25th Soul is low, no GA from the last time, but Enigma might be looking at his first death. Nightstawn wants to give it to him, and he'll get a blemish on the board here, but this is almost certainly going to be the game with James and Nightstawn both down. Magic Stick still alive, healthy, and well, and the last inhibitor finally down. That's what they're really looking for. This is where they're coming in with the Cataclysm. 25th Soul doing what he can, but can Magic Stick turn it around? I think absolutely. Hecarim, you have no power here, he says, and the next tower going to be the one to fall. This is absolutely a massive pickup in 41 minutes. Montreal come out huge, and they deal a devastating blow to Johns Hopkins, something that we have not seen yet on stream.
I mean, they lost 1 match overall. They've essentially doubled Johns Hopkins' loss record in the first game of best of 3. So, at the very least, they didn't win it yet, but heroes can bleed. Yeah. That's what they've shown. They've shown that Johns Hopkins is not immortal. They're not infallible, and this could be the start of a 2-0. I mean, the way that Montreal were playing, they were not giving Johns Hopkins any room to breathe, right? It was not like the game was close and then it spread. It was close and then it just wasn't. right? They didn't have any macro going their way. They didn't have any kind of plays that they were making that were working out. And that's reverse Johns Hopkins, right? Mid-game, the game ends. Mid-game, they get choked out. They're the ones who lose. And Montreal have turned the tables, flipped the script, and put Johns Hopkins one game away from going to lower bracket.
Yeah, I mean, really, they kind of were the nega Johns Hopkins here. Everything about JHU that made them special was relatively well nullified here by Montreal. So they painted a big old target on Johns Hopkins' back, and, well, they hit a bullseye this first game. But JHU, they're a formidable force for a reason. They are, of course, our Winter Invitational champions for a reason.
True. It's true, but remember, Montreal only lost to UCF, who got to finals. What happens if, they don't lose that series? They get to finals, and they've had a long time to think about it.
Wow.
Now, they're going to give us the answer.
Well, we will catch up on that right after this break. We're going to give them a little bit of time to talk shop, get a strategy underway, and when we come back, we'll see game number 2, whether or not this wraps up or if JHU can answer back. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for sticking around with us through the break. And if you're just joining us, boy, did you miss a doozy of a first game where Universite de Montreal took it to Johns Hopkins, our defending Winter Invitational champions, and so far undefeated in the upper play here of the spring season. Now, it's looking a little compromised.
It's looking a bit more than that. We'll have to see with them. Adaptations, right? You gotta have adaptations in draft. I'm not gonna talk about them until we get into the draft itself, though. But got a couple things planned, right? I'm expecting some swaps, specifically in, potentially that mid lane. I think that they definitely need to go for a little bit more of a consistent pick because it seems like they really got banned out, right? They had a lot of focus. A lot of times they were just kind of, not on champs that, either were scaling properly or they weren't fighting around their scaling properly champions, and they're fighting too much in the mid game with a composition that was supposed to go late. The objectives didn't go their way, the fights didn't go their way, the game didn't go their way. So, Johns Hopkins with it all to prove, and that's a bad start.
Whew. Well, yeah, they gave away with Vladimir early. They took some aggressive bans, right? Banning out 2 members of the composition. Getting Galio off of Alcus, I actually really like that one. Then banning the Poppy away from Mysterio, not as pressing, I would think, to allow the Vladimir first pick option.
Because they want to play champs that get in, right? Champs that drag or, dash their way into fights. And the Poppy stops a lot of that. So, planning on the Jarvan, they ban away the Poppy. The problem being, they let through one of the strongest mids in the game. So now they're going to have to, what I would do, right, is I would say, we need the Zoe. They're not going to go for the Zoe. They're going to go for the Orianna. This is an alright pick. The range advantage not in the favor of either one of these mid laners so much. The Orianna has a slight edge with her Q, AoE, plus the W. But the composition is just looking so good, right? Rek'Sai, Vladimir, these are 2 incredibly good champions. If they round it out with something along the lines of a really strong support, it's not the Thresh, but it's certainly still a top tier.
You like to think Alistair on the table, something that they may just want to be denying this composition that's going to have Orianna already, right? This is as much an offensive support pickup as it is a defensive support pickup. You do not want the hamburger ball delivery system in your face there. So they do take that one away just as much as they will use it to their own credit. And, giving Big Magic Stick and Alistair to play behind is going to be great for peel options. Going through a Braum is going to be a little bit trickier, but I like the safe support pickup coming out from Johns Hopkins here. Braum on the table, pretty big. I would not be surprised now with the Silas off the bat to just see a lot of focus coming on to these AD roles, but
it has to be towards the mid-top flex, right? That's the problem. Because let's say you give over Silas here, right? You're picking something most likely that is a bruiser style top. You give over Silas, they have Vlad Silas. How do you kill them? You need actual damage. They're taking away one of those picks to hopefully start to corral that in. The other super strong sort of flex tops, the Aurelia is gone, the Aatrox is off the table. There aren't really many left, right? It's just kind of the Vladimir now. So they take out the Hecarim. I think one of the biggest, sticking points of the composition of JHU. That was such a good pick. It worked so well, but if you're going to pick Jarvan, right? They're going to pick Vlad first pick. They're going to, basically flex on you. Why not go for Jarvan Galio? Let the Galio through. Let them first pick it. If they do, take Jarvan Vlad, right? That's a fantastic lineup to have, but they're not going to opt into that. They're going to go for the Ezreal. A lot more mid-game focused with this team. Definitely fits Johns Hopkins' style, of course. But the question is it going to be the same early game?
Ooh, with the Scion pickup. Curious to see if that's what they do decide to lock in here at the end of the day. That would round out one tanky composition here coming
against
out.
Against an Ezreal? How does the Ezreal bring this comp down?
Yeah, this is rough.
It's just
rely on a lot from
you
Orianna.
need something like a Riven, a Fiora,
some kind of hyper carry top, absolutely.
The Jax is potentially even enough, but still kind of lacking.
Soul has been known to play Jax, actually. That's a fairly good guess, but
they're going to go for Kennen. Okay.
Well,
I like the Kennen a lot into not so tanky teams. Against tanky teams, right? You ult them, and you get all this damage, and then you realize they've got another health bar left after you're done dealing damage that's larger than your initial health bar. So the problem being, right? Rek'Sai, of course, is very squishy. You can bring her down, you can bully her, you can do whatever you need to. But Sion, Vladimir, Alistair, these are not champs Kennen can kill. With the Orianna combo, maybe it starts to work out, maybe it's in their favor, but this is still a very uphill battle for the side of JHU. Their composition just not finding the kinds of damage I think it really needs in order to win this game.
Yeah, certainly.
So many ADs open too, right?
After that last game, yeah, you just have to wonder if this composition now is going to be enough for them to be able to take away game number 2. Back against the wall. Now, good news for the loser of this game, regardless of who it is there is the lower bracket waiting.
Assuming this game is a JHU loss. If it's a JHU win, we go into game 3.
Right.
So
yeah. Just
there is a potential third game in this series. It has to be about, Montreal winning it out. Montreal drops this game to a very unorthodox composition. I would say that, they might have to rethink some things. But Johns Hopkins, going into game 2, being down for the first time I think we've ever seen them in game number 2 of a series. An incredible game number 1 win by Montreal. And once we load in,
coming at it now. Yeah, we got it.
Okay, once we load in, we can take a look at this. And I gotta say, right? So, you take a look at the Johns Hopkins comp. Say, okay, they've got themselves an okay match up top. Kennen into Sion. Kennen gets a lot of farm. He gets gold. He doesn't stop Sion, alright? Look at the Vlad Ori mid. Orianna trades a bit even, doesn't stop Vlad. Bot lane. Ezreal does not stop Sivir. So, across the board, you have things that aren't exactly winning. So it's all about the jungle. Night's Dawn, if he has a good impact, if he's winning the game, if he's helping them to, lane advantages, then they can win. If he's not, I'm extremely worried for their team.
And Night's Dawn, usually one of the more output-heavy junglers we're used to seeing. I mean, this guy is a big part of the soul of his team and has always worked very well to their credit. This time, last game, didn't really have the showing we wanted out of him, but now, okay, hey, he's back onto the Jarvan. It's something he's comfortable with, the Kha'Zix. It was a risky play that didn't work out. Maybe J4 will be the turning of the leaf that he's looking for, but against a Rek'Sai, against trying to outpace some of that, could get to be tricky for himself there, especially we've seen Douchey play very aggressive, clean style of jungle that's worked out quite well. So this has some big question marks for me here. Magic Stick almost walked back. You could see the temptation in his eyes. Said one more.
He was thinking about it.
That red buff could be mine. Have a great lane start. Nope, you don't want to do it. Just give it to the jungler. Everyone will be happier.
I mean, I've seen scenarios in which, people invade and they take away the red initially, right? That's obviously a much better start, right? If 4 had the red right now, the lane would be incredibly difficult. Not to mention, Douchey would be very dangerous, but Mysterio's in a 2v2. We've seen this before, and they do not want a version 2 of that. Night's Dawn, no mana to his name, will just instead run. The level 2 gank from the Jarvan was predicted, Mysterio went down there, and Kennen, as we said, has no damage to finish him off. So even though there's a Jarvan there, even though there's a bunch of CC, good early aim, good level 2 gank, nothing comes of it.
Prey Seeker didn't connect either there, so would have just been some damage on the back line, but nothing too big at the end of the day. And they're all just going to go their merry ways. Better this time, I would think, for Johns Hopkins to not have to give up such an early kill this time around. The invade didn't go their way, and that is a huge waste of time. Just all the time he spent at that blue buff not even securing that. I don't believe he secured it, at least. I could be mistaken, but I think that blue buffs, all well and good, should be in the hands now of Douchey. Changes the dynamic just a little bit here. Now he's still on this top side, still around. The ward should spot him out, but if he can get up quick enough... Yeah, there's the ping on him. I don't think this is going to be anything for 25th Soul. He's playing it very safely, right back to the tower. Knows he's okay. I should signal that the ward is there. Signal that he's been spotted out. I don't know if Douchey's entirely aware of that, but it doesn't matter. Meanwhile, this is some deep invading of the jungle coming down by Night's Dawn. He knows he can do this because they spotted the enemy jungler up top, but the pings do come down on him as well. So the information war is continuing here, and both teams have a pretty good read on it thus far. It's just going to be a matter of how they react.
I think the very interesting thing about this so far is you take a look at JHU's usual style, right? They usually, they suffer a bit in the mid game, but they seem to be, kind of shaken almost from the way that the last game worked out. Usually you'd see them at least attempting to make plays or, looking for these kinds of picks, knowing that their lanes could suffer if this game goes too late, but they are very content right now to just let Knight's Dawn farm. He's not trying to force anything. He's not trying to be the superhero jungler that I at least think he needs to be for this win.
Well, it's what he's been in the past when they've been winning, so we'll see whether or not that comes around to prove us wrong or not. He's looking for something here in all of this farm early enough. Maybe it's just a rush to 6, right? He doesn't die at his Gromp because he's very close to doing that. The rush to 6, you get the Cataclysm, you come in, you're a new man, right? Especially on Sivir, you're forcing Flash. If Alistar's not in there to headbutt you out. On Sion, you're forcing a Flash. On Vladimir, probably not so much, right? But
well, I think even on the Sion, not so much, right? The problem being, it's a Doran shield start Kennen, right? It's not even Doran's Blade for the advanced poke. He's just trying to sustain himself through the Sion lane, get a bunch of farm, get himself to 6, and then deal with it, right? He's not super worried about killing the Sion because there's no feasible way in which he does it, Mysterio has not made a bunch of mistakes. He's not stepping too far out. You know that you're not going to have, a time at which he's pushing into you unless you manage the wave excellently or he mismanages it. So not betting on that, not risking that, going for a much safer start in terms of the items. I think the Kennen is in a very hard to gank spot, but he is also at a push advantage, so he goes into the jungle and they're going to get that Scuttle Crab as a result.
Good combo coming up, forcing the E out of Ezreal. Just the Arcane Shift, no Flash, no Fancy Feet there. That's the defensibility of the Ezreals. Even if you land a nice combo like that, Alco's really not able to do much with it. So 4 playing that one quite well to stay alive and really doesn't even need the peel from Potential just yet to keep things moving and grooving in the direction that he wants to. Still, just a slow start to this game for everybody. They're content to farm it out. This was the case, at least for a good degree of last game as well. They wanted to extend laning phase as much as possible, and ultimately, it did end up benefiting Montreal, but that's also only because Montreal was able to find the kills when that was happening. We've seen a couple of gank attempts, or one gank attempt here, maybe the second coming in onto James, but it's a nice self-ult, actually, to stop things dead in their center. Uses it, and just stops things immediately. Douchey not able to go any further. But overall point, Montreal not able to find these early kills that were benefiting them so much in the last game.
At the same time, though, right? They aren't able to find kills that benefit them. But unlike last game, right? The Vladimir isn't exactly on a timer. The later the game goes, the scarier he gets. Unlike Lissandra, he's not CC based. He's not, bound by the fact that he's going to get poked down. He's going to get burst by these, 80 carries. It's an Ezreal. So all he has to worry about is, where's my gold income? If he has enough gold income, he's feeling good about things. If he's, able to just stay alive, stay consistent, he's going to be in a good spot, and that continues to be the case right now. Alcos does get stunned up.
Feeling a little bit at the edge of that Braum passive there, but there's really not enough mana to follow up with any meaningful damage from 4.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the Doran shield start on the Ezreal, right? He can be 10 CS ahead, but until he's actualized that, what does it matter?
He has to back soon, right? The real problem is, if you stay in lane too long as Ezreal, you don't start getting the tier stack. If you don't get tier stack, you're not getting one of your huge advantages, which is the fact that you have one of the cheapest ADC builds in the game. If not the cheapest, right? You might want to argue, but Draven can build, boots and 2 BF swords. Well, that's not really a build, right? That's, whatever. Anyways, Ezreal at like 2,700 gold for 2 items puts him at like 5,400 for a basically completed mid-game build. That's super, super inexpensive, right? Some AD carries are close to that now with the renewed crit itemization plus IE rush, but even that's not as effective. So you want to be stacking up really early. He's going to get super late back on his tier, like 3-4 minutes behind schedule, so 3-4 minutes potentially delayed on getting that stack up.
It's going to hurt.
Yeah.
Obviously,
It's Dawn on the drag, though.
if the game goes as late as last time, maybe some of that will balance out. But obviously, like you said, this Vladimir, not on a timer, only going to get more ferocious the later it does go. And now with a nice Ocean Drake in their back pockets, this might be a little bit of a renewed sense of confidence for Johns Hopkins. They're going to love that sustain, especially in the mono department for 4 here. So it's going to be a big pickup for themselves. Cloud Drake, next one on the docket. It's about a 1k gold advantage now in the hands of Johns Hopkins. About 10 minutes, a little less on the timer here. We'll see if this kind of ends up being one of their more traditional games. Speed it up, get where they're going fast, and then, 15 to 18 minutes, break it all wide open. Rift Herald will be coming up before too long, and we all know that that's a big part of their play style as it does come in. But meanwhile, we might have a little 2v2 coming up, cooking in this mid lane. It seems like they're actually just going to go their separate ways. The support squad rolled up for both sides. No one wants it.
Well, they do want the ward, and they're going to get the ward, but yeah, it's a very, very quiet game so far, right? No real objectives taken. Yeah, they get the Ocean Drake. That's it. That's the entirety of the objectives list as of 10 minutes into this game. And I don't know if that's good or bad for Johns Hopkins, right? The problem is, it's great for Montreal. All they want to do is scale. All they want to do is farm. They're doing that perfectly. The problem is, when it comes time to actualize this, when it comes time to take leads, take fights, they're not going to have the same inherent advantage that they did last mid. So, Johns Hopkins, a team that is famous for cracking open mid-game fights, getting great macro rotations because of their even to slightly ahead status, isn't going to have that advantage. Or is going to have that advantage. And Montreal isn't going to have the ability to say, yeah, well, we're just ahead, so you can't do that. And so I worry, right? At 15 minutes, if Johns Hopkins starts to make moves, if they do exactly what they used to do, and it works out for them, then yeah, Montreal are going to be, like most of Johns Hopkins' opponents, in a very bad position.
Seems like starting to play towards that style. Just the quick, easy objective takeaway is something they find for themselves first. Well, now, Stereo, top side. Just feel this thing a little bit. This is going to be that standard wet noodle fight that you expect to see out of most top laners. 25th Soul could definitely output more damage than what we see a lot, but Enigma on the top of outputting damage, it's another great ultimate on himself, but not enough time this time. James just barely did not have flash up. I believe that's still on cooldown for just another second, and meanwhile, in the bot lane, the action's going to continue, but I think it'll just taper right back off as Alco should be able to strut out of this one with very few problems overall. So first blood yet again now coming down to the hands of Montreal. They pick it up on the mid laner, and James going to be feeling the pressure and the heat on that one a good amount.
He did. I don't know if he had flash up. It was very close to coming back up again from the first time they ganked him. I don't know if they had it exactly up or not, but what I do know is the ultimate combo, that ultimate, if it had hit the Vladimir before he pulled, Enigma dies. The fact that he pulls specifically the ultimate means that he's alive. It means that, he can continue to pressure, he can do all the damage he wants, and nobody else can answer to that. So, Night's Dawn not in range, Ducci on a really good flank, it just works out. And I think that that's kind of been his MO as of this game, right? He's just saying, okay, I don't need to aggress, but if I'm going to, might as well do it on the super, super immobile mid. Kennen has that, the E rush. I don't want to deal with that. That's too fast. Ezreal has a jump. Braum has a jump. I don't want to deal with that either. I don't want to gank the Jarvan. But you know who they do want to gank? Vladimir himself.
Ooh, yeah, they're going to come in right onto Enigma. The pool
Watch
is there, but yeah, they should be able to find it. Cataclysm, just on the edge, actually, but doesn't matter. Night's Dawn does stay alive with it. The flash keeping him safe there. Magic Stick.
2 HP.
To get hit up there. That's going to be the turnaround. They're going to try to get it onto 4. 4's
Watch
HP
4.
actually
He's
very
dead.
low. And now Potential in some real trouble
too.
as well. He can only stun up one of them and goes for Alcos. That's the CC. The big Magic Stick, the damage.
Watch
is there
this.
enough time?
He's about to get more CC. The Cowboy's going to tick.
Ooh.
He's got knockback.
Boom.
Dead.
Beautiful. Potential taken down. The shield goes the wrong way. Not that it would have helped at the end of the day anyway. But some more big kills now coming out into the favor.
Close. Keep in mind how low Night's Dawn is. If they get a catch onto him... Oh, actually, he's gotten quite a bit of health back because of that red buff.
Beautifully done. And now, actually, Mysterio is in real
Mysterio
trouble.
flash.
Flashes,
Great
yeah.
flash.
So they do end up using the Orianna ultimate as well, but at the end of the day, Shockwave not doing enough to take things down. Nightstone, he gets the Rift Herald for him yet again. This is a fairly comparable position to last time, actually. They get the Rift Herald early. If they can use it to their standard way of getting 2, sometimes 3 towers off it, Johns Hopkins will be in a position to take a massive lead in this game, but knocking on the door 14 minutes here. That's just...
Yeah, no more, remember,
no plates.
No more actual plates, so you're not going to get the bonus goal. And total plate count taken down was like, what, 4 maybe across the entire map? I'm not so sure of that. But that's just, it's really something that just kind of happens sometimes. Alistair behind 4 again, but this time Big Magic Stick is one in incredible amounts of trouble.
Yeah, he's not going to get out of that one, I don't believe. Does go down, but Alkos finds 4 all the same, and Enigma now on the 25th Soul. This could be a lot bigger of a fight than I think anyone was expecting.
They're just not going to find that. They get the trade, right? So both supports take down both ADs. Neither one gets to farm out. A lot worse for the Sivir, obviously. Heavy farm AD than it is the Ezreal. He's got most of his 2 items. He's not super worried at this point. But even so, not great. And with them potentially catching potential, he's knocked over the wall and he has to flash to get out. If he's ever going to get
big hop, actually. They do pull James further back, though. That's going to mean the Shockwave has to come down. This could be more. Cataclysm is back up, so they get in onto Douchey. He is out of that one, but may go down still. Night's Dawn wants it, but cannot get it. Has to settle for walking away. 25th Soul makes a crack at it as well, and James is here. They're going to find the cow, and he does go down. Alkos, potential. They're the only 2 victims thus far. The AD's nowhere to be found, and this could be bad news for Enigma. Does manage to get out at the edge. And 4's join the fight. Meanwhile, Big Magic Stick staying in the bot lane.
That's 2 turrets.
This is
you want to talk about the 2 turrets? Now it's 2 turrets. They're going to get this mid turret before the Rift Shield charges it out, and the second one is going to go down rather rapidly as well. You want to talk about making a play, making a mid-game advantage, getting the Rift Herald, getting 2 turrets. That's exactly what JH2 have done yet again. They're back to their old ways, and it's because of one misstep. They find themselves the same amount of kills as their opposing side, and yet they still get an advantage with it.
This is how
Herald
they
gets charged onto the tower.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Massive play from Johns Hopkins University. The Blue Jays seeming a little bit more back to form this time around. The gold lead still sub 1K. I mean, it's not as massive as they're used to at this point, but the towers, the way they're opening up the map at this point, this is kind of a little bit more what they're well known for. And now you think Montreal, well, maybe they're going to answer back with one of these towers before too long. In fact, Sivir has a free pipeline and some damage on this one in the bottom lane, so Big Magic Stick probably going to get pushed off by the cannon here. Yeah, the wave will do it actually for the cannon, but at the end of the day, we'll have that one in prime position to strike, still leaving Mysterio in the top lane as well. He's down a considerable amount when you take in this kill, the 25th Soul. Leaving him up there for so long means they can definitely just initiate the lane swap at their leisure on the side of Johns Hopkins. Tower does go down. The minion finally takes it, and I believe Magic Stick was in range to get all the easy gold benefits, but I don't know this time around. Bringing us back a little closer to an even keel. We're 500 gold splitting the difference on these guys at this point, and we saw the last fight certainly go the way of Johns Hopkins. Even though it was just a support for support trade, they came out so much stronger, so much better off for it. If they want to group and fight again, an option will be building itself before too long in the way of Baron Nashor. I'm sorry, no, another Drake should be spawning before then. We'll see that as the potential gauntlet for these two teams to square up. Is now Mysterio back to his old ways, lane swap full force all the way across, and we're getting kind of the last extension of laning phase before this game fully moves into macro.
Yeah, and as the lane phase continues or doesn't continue to stretch whatever happens soon after this, we keep in mind the fact that Johns Hopkins has already taken both mid towers, right? They've gotten themselves a huge, huge advantage in terms of map control, just being ahead at, and basically getting control over the rest of the jungle because of it, you know? So, with Mysterio in a little bit of a bad situation, he will go down.
Yeah, you could say that.
And that turret's going to drop as well, but here comes the response.
They want to find a round in the top side. That's potential getting troubled up for it. And Big Magic Stick takes the kill credit. Yeah, you talk about a couple towers. Here's 4 members. This could turn into a little bit of a tower rush down. I believe
a little bit of a base race. Look at the Orianna in the mid lane. James he is going to get most of the rest of the health on that mid tower. They need to send someone back. They don't have a teleport. And so this is going to be a very bad position for the side of Montreal. They will be losing this mid tower.
I think they were expecting to just wait for Mysterio, but it's not enough time at the end of the day, and they're going to lose that bot tower as well. Waited and wasted a lot of time in the top side because they didn't have minions there. The tower would have fallen with the pressure from these 4 champions, but meanwhile now an inhibitor exposed. Johns Hopkins looking to possibly take this one the distance. We're only 19 minutes in, but they're looking so much better with their macro play in this second game. You can tell that first loss didn't get in their heads too much. They took it in stride, and now they're coming back with something to prove.
Yeah, they really are. That something is really exemplified. Again, the macro play to recognize that they have time. For James to just push in and not get punished, though, is super, super surprising. You know, after you get the first tower, that's pretty much guaranteed. You're going to lose bot tower. You need to save your inhibitor turret, though. That has to never be given over for free. The fact that it was means that this is now a free inhibitor, essentially, if they can't get the fight.
Well, the fight is coming to them, and it's in the way of Enigma. He's got to use the ultimate. Knight's on Cataclysm very defensively and lines them all up for a great ultimate from Ezreal there to come down, but should stall things back out. They actually do get a little bit of health back now.
Watch the cannon ult.
They want to find more here. Yeah, cannon could definitely, in that Dragon Pit, cause some real disruption. Mysterio knows that he's trying to play this one to the edge. They want to go for Enigma and Magic Stick. Magic Stick flashing out, though. Algos is back in. He stops it dead in its track. 25th Soul now actually wants to go toe-to-toe with Big Magic Stick. Enigma still on the run. There are no towers to retreat to anywhere here. That's going to be a huge pickup coming out from 4. He's a master this time around and picking up the damage, keeping it well and alive for himself. Popping over the wall. That's going to be the Cloud Drake, number 2 now. First one for Johns Hopkins, definitely to their credit. You'd be a fool to try to steal it at this point. They know it. They back it on off. And just like that, Johns Hopkins are starting to look so much stronger. It is night and day with this team right now.
Keep in mind, though, this composition entirely tuned around their mid game. This is when they have to be winning, because if they aren't getting these advantages, if they aren't actually finding purchase, they're against Sivir and Sion and Vladimir. They will get outscaled. They will get outburned in terms of the team fight. So, yeah, now is the time when they're strongest. They are indeed capitalizing on it, though, and unlike the last game, where they didn't find themselves the lead, where they weren't able to, really get much of anything done, in fact, this game is a much different story. They are just finally slotting things into place, making the plays, getting their advantages, and it's all seeming to work out. But even though that is the case, they need to close the game out, and probably before the 30-minute mark. I mean, that would be ideal, obviously. If you don't, if it starts getting longer, if you aren't able to find, the fights that you want, you aren't able to shove in, maybe you get an inhibitor before that, it's still okay. But if there's no inhibitor, if there's no purchase, if there's no anything in their favor, they're still stuck at the same point at 30 minutes, yeah, I'd start to worry a lot.
Yeah, you don't want to see those wheels ever just spinning in the mud. Johns Hopkins, usually a team that can get themselves out of those sticky situations. They don't find themselves stuck often, and we actually saw that happen last game. They got stuck and did not end up well for them. It took 40 minutes for Montreal to be able to do it at the end of the day. 41 to be more precise, but they definitely did find that foothold and take it to them. So now, yeah, you got to think Montreal, they got to be in stalling mode, right? They do have the options, and those options are growing. And soon we'll be actualizing a little more, but you want to shut it down. You saw they played that very well just now on the back of that last fight. 4, knowing he could split without getting flanked, getting the kill onto Enigma, having the chase down options, keeping this well contained. He's starting to come online a little bit for himself as well, and James, we know he's quite the player in the fight capacity, and 25th Soul, I think, will be picking up a lot of that slack with his 2 kills as well. The tools are there. The time is right. You want to see now that aggression maybe coming. Nightstomp, he's the engaged, but not if he's getting engaged upon. Let's use that flag and drag. Very defensively there, and that's the kind of play Montreal wants to replicate more of. If they can just keep them second-guessing on the back foot without engaged tools, that's how you know they can stall this one out. Kind of adding an item.
Problem is, eventually, right, if, JHU just don't engage, if they continue this holding pattern, they're going to run out of fuel. They're not going to be able to just do this for forever. And that's, I guess, the real worry, right? It's when does JHU find themselves a fight? They haven't engaged on basically any fights. And the only plays that they've made proactively have been the Rift Herald play and the fight right before Rift Herald. So beyond that, it has just been reactive, waiting for them to make a mistake, and then essentially punishing for it. It's not a terrible strategy, but it is if the Sivir is getting more for it than you are. And at this point, at 2 items, that's not the case. At 3 items, sort of. At 4 items, yes. At 5 items, the game's over. So, yeah, there's a worrisome timer. It's still ticking. It hasn't stopped yet, and unfortunately for the side of Johns Hopkins, the clock is pretty big. You're going to have to put some effort in order to destroy it.
Effort is something neither of these teams, I would think, are strangers to this late in the season. They've been getting here off of
So cautious.
well-oiled processes and heroic effort in tandem, but you gotta think now, if there's ever a time to make a push, to do what you need to do to win this game, well, it's here and it's now. They know the clock's against them for Johns Hopkins, and not only is the clock against them in this game, but if they lose it, they're down to the lower bracket, right? They did not get that first game. Montreal have it in their back pocket, so they've got to be playing from a position of a little bit more comfort, even though they are behind here. I know they're not too terribly far behind. Still, Johns Hopkins able to set up.
Baron's up.
Baron, yeah, they want to go ahead and just start it up.
Keep in mind, Scion with TP. This is the time to engage. If there was ever a time, this is the proactive play. Johns Hopkins have started it, but they're trapped in pit.
Yeah, they need to back off this one quickly. They want to find a flank here because they know that the side of Montreal is split. Mysterio, can you hold this one off long enough for the rest of the team to get in? Because if they turn, it could make mincemeat of either side very, very quickly. All 5 grouped up quite closely together. And
they're trying to bait that out. So the reason Johns Hopkins turned so suddenly is they get the teleport, right? That's all that they needed. They just needed some kind of advantage. And now, seeing Enigma stuck around the Baron, they're rotating instantly to the drag. They're saying, okay, we got to get something. We got their teleport. Let's push for more. And the push for more is going to give them a Mountain Drake, their 3rd dragon of the game. On this red side, they are indeed stacking up quite a dragon advantage. But, so far, hasn't translated into a kill advantage. Gold lead still very even as well. So, they are looking for, in the future, maybe some Baron pressure. But Enigma, he's low and he's
want. Yeah, they want to get in for the full-on fight, actually. Magic Stick is there. That's a huge Glacial Fissure in the middle of everyone, but Alkos is able to peel it off very well. Potential. That's not going to be a big shockwave actually coming out of 4. That's Kennen going down. 25th Soul is out of this one, but it is traded back for Douchey. They're going to try more. Mysterio, can you get it? That's the cow in. He's getting more out of this one. 4's in some real trouble. He's so low, but he will get out with the E. Can you chase it? Magic Stick, the healthy one. He's the real fighter here. This is the guy that pops off. Can he get it? No! Does not find 4. But either way, it's a 2 for 2.
Turrets.
Yeah, they'll get a tower out of this one. James got to be careful if he wants to stick around because big Magic Stick.
Mysterio has ult.
Oh, Magic Stick could get through him in just a second. Now that these minions are here, I think he has to back off.
Yeah. So the thing is, he's trying to delay. What he did there was delay so they can't get 2 turrets. They are going to get the first tower, or maybe they are going to get him. No, he gets away with a flash.
That's it.
Ultimate for Flash, though, pretty good deal if you're a Sivir.
Absolutely, and nice pickup there for themselves. Keeping the kill lead in their favor. Gold lead stops it from getting too far behind. All in all, trade goes their way, tower goes their way. Montreal prove that they're not just going to take this one lying down, not let it all slide by the wayside.
Watch this Baron.
Ooh.
Timing is really, really bad for the side of Montreal. They are not there in time. They're not actually getting much of anything. If they don't get this... Oh, and they don't actually get that, permanent ward from the Scuttle. So the Baron is going to be dark for them. The side of the map, no idea where anybody is, but after having seen 25th Soul on the bottom side, they remember something. They don't have the TP. If they send Mysterio down, it will be a 4 versus 4 period. There will be no chance of recovering the Scion in time for this fight. And in the 4 versus 4, they don't really have that much of an advantage, if at all. I mean, the Scion's a huge part of their front line. It's a huge part of why they stayed alive, why they got the 2 for 2 trade in that last fight. So, missing that out will take a ward from the pit, but they won't take more than that.
Just doing some routine maintenance, cleaning up around this river. Hashtag trash tag, right? Getting rid of all those pesky pieces of garbage, aka enemy wards, that they can. Just enough, though, to get moving in the right direction. You talked about that 30-minute timer, right?
It's getting really close.
Game. Yeah, it is, and all we've seen happen between that and now was a pretty good defensive turnaround by Montreal on a fight that Johns Hopkins was close enough to picking, right, in their own enemy jungle.
And so the reason that the fight went the way it did was because 25th Soul gets in super, super far. But because of the choke, because of the way that it's shaped, if 4 goes in, if their damage goes in, if James comes around the corner, they all die. The Vladimir's alive. You have the Sivir. They're both ready to turn. The only person who can actually survive long enough is the man with the Zhonya's. That's the Kennen. He goes in, he sticks around for a while, too long, then dies, right? Beyond that, potential goes down, and 4, as we saw, caught in that choke, almost drops as well. He was sub 100 HP, 1 auto attack away from dying himself. If he had fallen, it would have been catastrophic loss. As it is, it was a very close, almost loss, and they've got to be very careful. If they lose like that again, I mean, game's basically over.
One more going the other direction.
Not over. Baron
just
is in the hands.
Balance. Just puts them on the back.
It puts them on the back foot. You're right. It's not over. Little bit of hyperbole there. It would be incredibly devastating, right? Lose the Baron, lose most likely an inhibitor, your advantage in terms of push power.
Ooh,
and
speaking of power,
potential.
they want to come in. Shockwave is down, not enough. As that one does come out, potential's picked up for basically free, and they get an Oriole on the top of it as well. They'll do a little damage to the health bars, but the CC from it all, the grouping, not going to be there.
Kennen bot lane.
In the bot lane, though, yeah, absolutely something to keep an eye on. They don't want to race this one. It will not go in their favor. Rek'Sai instead probably going to have to get down there, yeah.
They send 2. This turret will go down no matter what. They send 2. The reason they're sending 2 is because you don't know where the Rek'Sai is until you see her in the bottom side, and she's actually came back up. The turret went down, T2 for T2, right? That's always going to be in the favor of JV1. All they need is they need to close this game out faster, obviously better. If they let it go too long, as it is going right now, Sivir just gets more and more dangerous, and they are in a rapidly closing window. Because even though they lose T2, right, in the mid lane, they need an inhibitor. They need an opening to get the Baron at the very least in order to end this game. Without that, there's just too much wave clear on the side of Montreal for them to make an effective push.
You talk about the Sivir timer. This is not just Sivir, right? This is Big Magic Stick playing Sivir. I mean, he's probably one of the best teamfight ADs we've seen in the JV season. He's so safe and controlled in his ability there. So if there's any player to be kind of commanding this one, that's a tough one to find yourself up against. But I tell you what'll ease that a little bit is a second Mountain Drake, which is what they found for themselves on the side of Johns Hopkins. Baron shredded like an afterthought with these 2 Mountain Drakes. Gonna be helping them out in the corner there. And should the Elder come around, well, there's no Infernals to buff on the ticket there, but it doesn't matter. Elder Drake will be massive for these 4 as well, should they come to that point of the game. Obviously, I think Johns Hopkins would like to close it out sooner than that. They've had an exposed inhibitor for what, like 8 to 10 minutes now, almost?
It's been at least 10 minutes.
10 minutes?
They got that, because they got that Rift Herald and deployed it relatively quickly.
Oh,
it was
sure,
like 17 or 18 minutes in, so
Fair point.
it's been open for nearly 15 minutes. Well, no. The inhibitor turret was open for part of that, and then the inhibitor. So with the Orianna push down, after the fight that they slightly won, went top lane, getting a pick. Yeah, it's been about 8 to 10 minutes.
So with that, I mean, you gotta think they want to wrap this up before that Elder Drake even becomes a potential 6 minutes or so, little less at this point with an open inhibitor. That's not too tall of an order, especially now that both outer turrets in the bot lane are down. It's only that inhib turret. I mean, Johns Hopkins, if they can get to the enemy side of the map, can really lay some pressure down. The problem is, look at this ward line. It's almost exclusively neutral wards all the way across in this river here. They do not have any foothold, basically, onto the opposing side of the map, and it's all because of this Baron. I mean, every ward is getting dropped and immediately cleaned up for both sides. That just seems to be the way it's going. Nice Baron pressure to give Nightstone a couple second thoughts. He's actually going to lose quite a bit of his health bar there. Of course, does have the GA but still gets taken down to about half of that to start things. That's not a position you like to see if you're a JV1 fan.
Potential again with the catch.
Yeah, he knows he can get over the wall this time, but that's the kind of risks you cannot be taking right now if you're Johns Hopkins, especially when you know 25th Soul was trying to back. He still has the entire teleport channel to get in if they're going to try to pull a punch like that.
It's just, it's getting to be, right, it's more than a standoff at this point. It has been essentially just one side waiting until their server is strong enough, and then the other side saying, okay, make a mistake. You know, they kind of feint, and they dip, and they duck, they throw a couple jabs, but that's all just to block your vision. You know, they're not really looking to get a catch, but now they are.
They want to get it. Night's Dawn, though, in some real trouble. It's only the GA pop. 25th Soul is in, and that's going to be big magic stick down. More to come, perhaps, as Mysterio now on the back line. They've already fried out Alco, Douchey, Enigma. They're all so low, and Enigma's going to go down for this one instantaneously as he pops back up. That is going to be the mistake you were talking about. The Baron buff going to be taken out. Not a single casualty on the side of Johns Hopkins. They make it happen. The Mountain Drakes gonna absolutely shred it. No chance for a steal at all. And just like that, they are thunderously now back in the lead here. After what we saw, a scale, a little bit of worry, they put that right to bed and say, we'll take the Baron Nashor and put ourselves in a big position to win this game and extend this series.
So what happened right there, right? Somehow James is still in range, so the Flash Flag Drag ultimate gets a combo, right? Because everybody's knocked up, the Kennen can flash ult in. He doesn't even have to flash, actually. He just E-ults in. And with the Proto Belt, he gets just enough range, he gets the damage down, and they get a pretty massive 3-pick set of kills. Big Magic Stick, if he had been alive on the backside of the fight and not been caught by the Jarvan ultimate, J4 would have been dead much more quickly. He wouldn't have lived, they wouldn't have had Smite, and then the Baron becomes a much more risky prospect. Problem is, he does get caught. A little bit of a misposition misstep. The first one he's had in forever. And JHU take full advantage of it. It's the reason their pick comp has a chance of working. But as the game goes longer, you know, we mentioned that it's much, much scarier. That was an incredibly good fight. You need summoners for a fight like that, though, right? They're missing a couple as it stands right now, and if they try to fight again, if they get picked right now, it will be not as great, to say the least.
Yeah, this late in the game, too, the Death Timers being what they are make this so crucial, so critical. Now a top
Kennen's
tower,
top.
Yeah, falling on this as well.
They have to make a choice. Do you fight? Do you not fight?
I think they have to
They're
at least
choosing
send
not
someone
fight, but
back.
they're not sending anyone back.
This is tough, yeah. I mean, where are they going to rotate to? Sion's finally coming back around, but you have to wonder, Sion being the team presence that he is, they're going to actually try to get the inside track here, and that is some big energy coming out from Big Magic Stick to feel like he can do this. I don't think that's the right play, but he will find 4, actually, over the wall. Big Magic Stick, he's going to trade his life for him. He takes Knights down as well. Are you kidding me? James now, so low. Can the left side do this?
This is everything. It's over. James is dead.
Oh my goodness. I mean, how on earth did they make that happen? They thought they had it all under control. 25th Soul's now in some trouble. You're joking! What is this coming out of Montreal? They just flipped the switch and decide they don't want to lose this game after all. You gotta be kidding me.
But with no ADC, they cannot finish this off that quickly. They need time. They need minions. They have one of those two, but they don't have damage. Now, with that, they can go for Elder. They will get the Elder uncontested in this game.
15 seconds on Nightstone still.
I mean, you want to talk about a play. Sivir walking in, 1 versus 1ing 4. He's got all the damage to do it, and he does it with style. Then kills off their jungler. 1 for 2. Great trade by him, and he makes it all happen. Without those 2 kills, there's no way they win the fight. There's no way they have a chance of taking this Elder, and they don't take it anyway.
I don't think they have a chance in the game before that happens, really. I mean, sure, it's
they don't have a chance, right? Now they have the first inhibitor of the game that goes down is not the side that's had an open inhibitor for nearly over half of it.
Yeah, since
right?
20 minutes,
18
right?
of their minutes.
Oh my goodness, I mean...
It's a side that had no open inhibitors, that had nothing open until the last 2 minutes. And it goes down. The Elder Dragon, though, so dangerous. If Night's Dawn dies, this will be an Elder for the side of Montreal, and it might be an Elder for them anyway. You look at this, they're not hitting any of the wards. but that doesn't stop the size of Johns Hopkins. It's really low, 3rd HP, and they knock Knight's Dawn out.
Yeah, Alcos, he's trying to trade his life for that one, but has Mysterio as well
Watch
for a little
the ult,
extra
watch
beef
the
on the
ult,
side.
watch the
Cataclysm is down. Dushy's there. 25th Soul's on the Magic Stick. He's not down yet, though. Cannon can't get it, and Enigma picks up the slack where he left off. Mysterio now. Knight's Dawn going to be getting in real low. Enigma is on the back line trying to follow everyone through. Are you kidding me? Are they going to be able to do this? If they can get 4, if they can kill Potential, they've got it all. Are you kidding me, Montreal? Do the impossible and hold off in Johns Hopkins' favored game. Game number 2 looked like it was coming their way down the track the entire time, but now the death timers are just too long, and Big Magic Stick is still alive. They were down in turrets. They're going to finish this game down in turrets, down in gold, actually, up in kills, and that's what mattered to Montreal at the end, is finding the right fights. Magic Stick and Enigma came up so huge. And at the end of the day, they take game number 2 in a shocker to Johns Hopkins, giving them their first series loss of the entire JV season, winter or spring.
Want to talk about a time? You want to talk about a time to step it up? Now's the time. Montreal with it all to play for. I mean, the way that last fight brings out, right? You take a look and you say, okay, Elder's down, right? They've got Sivir. Pick the Sivir. If Sivir dies in that fight, it's still a loss. That's the crazy part, because even if the Sivir dies, right? The commitment from the Kennen just to kill her. He's Zanya's up. He still goes down. As soon as he goes down, the Vladimir's up. The Vladimir's alive. They're going to take down exactly the same members that they did. The Sivir had basically no bearing on the rest of that fight at all. It was all Vladimir all the way down. We mentioned the dual timers. That's why Montreal has a great victory. They've got a great comp. They wait long enough. They have the perfect engagement that they didn't even have to set up. And they punish Johns Hopkins in the favorite manner possible. Respond with a counter-engage and just win it all.
I don't actually think you could have asked for a better game number 2 if you're trying to display just how good Montreal is, right? Because, look, game number 1, if Johns Hopkins come back, take game number 2, you could say, look, it was a bit of a fluke. They were caught off guard. It wasn't normally that JHU style that we're used to seeing. Well, game number 2 was, right? Game number 2 was Johns Hopkins style.
They get their mid-game picks. They get their multiple turrets. They get great macro rotations.
It's just what they do.
And then none of the mistakes. We say so many times, JV squads are characterized by the number of mistakes they make. Fewer mistakes, the better the JV squad. It's not necessarily about playing to the full potential. It's about who makes the least mistakes. You could say every sport's like that, but that's really characterizing JV. And no mistakes were made by Montreal for like 20 minutes. They just wait, and they wait, and they wait, and they wait. And then the time starts ticking down. Johns Hopkins make a play. They get a Baron. Right? They get a pretty good fight. They get a Baron. Great flash engage by the Jarvan. It's looking like Johns Hopkins again. They made a first proactive play in forever. Then they get completely caught off guard. Right? That play to catch them out, to make sure they had no idea, no chance to get into the Elder Dragon. They were completely on the missed timing. Knock the Jarvan out. He doesn't have a chance to get back in. And the fight just devolves from there. The Vladimir takes so many people out. So much damage that he's doing in the end of that.
I gotta tell you, I would be shaking in my boots if I am now the lower bracket team that has to square up against what's going to be a very, very angry Johns Hopkins Blue Jays squad, right? You gotta think they're back to the drawing board on this one. They're gonna hit the books harder and come back. I would not be surprised if these are the 2 teams we saw meet up again in the finals eventually. There are some other contestants.
We've got some good teams though. This isn't the only semifinal we have, right?
I know, believe me, I know.
Semifinal.
Yeah, winners brackets, winners semis, as you astutely called them earlier. I'm excited to see what the future holds. Of course, we do have more league action coming out. We're going to see how this bracket does continue to fill out. As I believe next time on Thursday, if I'm recalling correctly, our games are going to be RMU, and I'm fairly certain they're coming up against Stony Brook. I could be wrong on that one, but yeah, no, it is Stony Brook University White that RMU will be playing in the next kind of upper bracket run of things, so kind of getting a bigger idea of that. But we're going to save that one for Thursday. If you want more esports action tonight, stick around, because of course we do have some CSGO coming up every Tuesday and Thursday right after League of Legends, and with that, that's actually, I think this is going to be the last Tuesday and Thursday of the regular broadcast track, because I'm fairly certain after this, everything's going to be coming down to Atlantic City, end of April. That's when these teams are finally going to be squaring off for the very last bit of it. You can find more about that on our Twitter. You can give us some feedback on our Twitters here at Corvus Casting and at Zeta Beta. Hope to get a little bit of info from you. As,
Yeah, if you think that I'm worth talking to, I guess I doubt that.
Always want your feedback. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for us tonight here. We thank you for joining us. Want to give a huge congratulations for Universite de Montreal to be the first ones to upset Johns Hopkins University, who will be now going into the lower bracket, where we wish them the best of luck, and I'm sure we'll see more amazing things from them in time to come. But that's going to do it for us. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next time.